Hi everyone, my name is Jessa, and today I'm going to discuss the difference between class and ID selectors. And so before I start, I actually just want to discuss what selector means. Everyone in the class probably understand this well, but I might as well just cover it here. So selector is the first part of the CSS rule. So for example, this is your HTML, right? So you have body and you put whatever you want in there. So here on the CSS, so this is the selector, the body, the div, the P. So you are selecting from your HTML, for example, the body. If you want to change the body, then you will call it here. That's the first thing. You're selecting it so that you can change it. That's probably why it's called selector, because you're selecting it and changing it. And so these are called the HTML selectors. But you can also declare your own selectors using IDs and classes. And that's what we're going to discuss today. So what's the difference of ID and a class? An ID, oh, sorry. So an ID is, think of it as a student ID number. So my student ID number is very unique. No one else has the same ID number as me. And the same as everyone, each one of the students in BYU, Idaho. So it's unique and you cannot duplicate it. And so it's the same in coding. It only applies to one element on each of your page. So you can only use it once. You can't use the same ID name for another element. If you use it once, for example, you name your ID demo, you can't use another demo on another ID. I hope that makes sense. So the perfect example to explain this ID, when we use an ID, is using a logo. So a logo on a website, you use it only once. Usually it appears on the top left, top right, wherever on the top of your site, right? And it never really gets repeated on the rest of your website. So that's a perfect example of using an ID because you only use it once. While for classes, you can use classes to multiple elements. So, for example, you have 5 paragraphs that you want it to look the same. For example, you want a background of pink to these 5 paragraphs. So you're going to say class and you declare a name, say pink paragraph, and then on your CSS you call that class pink paragraph, and then you declare the background of pink, and it should apply to all 5 paragraphs having that pink background on it. So I hope that's kind of clear, and I will discuss to you also using codes on my code pen so that you can see it in action. Okay. So just another thing to point out here is that an ID, when you use an ID, you use hash or hashtag, whatever you call it. And for class, you use a dot in the beginning, okay? So I hope that's clear. And another note, IDs and class names cannot start with a number. So you don't say ID equals 1 paragraph, or just don't start with a number. It's kind of the same when you declare a variable or when you name your folder names. You don't start with a number, you just start with the word, and then if you need a number, then you can say paragraph 1, paragraph 2, variable 1, variable 2, so like that. Okay, so the most important thing to cover on this topic is when should we use an ID or class, because they're kind of very similar. So what's the difference? Well, just like what I said, ID are very unique. You just use it once. So almost always, what's encouraged is all the time you should try to use classes instead of an ID. Okay, because classes, it's easy to manipulate, and ID is really just rare. You rarely would use an ID. Okay, so let's see it here on the code. I prepped like a simple thing here already. So our background is pink, and we're gonna try to change this to different colors so that you can see it in action. So this one, I'm gonna show you how to use a class, an ID, and multiple classes. What I mean by this is that on a single element, you can use 2 or more class names. Okay, so I'll show you that right after. Let's just start here right now on class. So how we do it is say class, and then you name it whatever you want to name it. Right now, I'm just going to name it demo, okay? And so there's no changes yet because we're just kind of setting things up on the HTML right now. If you want it to change, you go to CSS and call it, right? So how do you call it? A class starts with a dot, and then you say the name. Name is right here, whatever we declared it, demo. And so right now it's a background of pink, so let's change it to background of yellow. So you should see it here. Once I finish typing it here, yellow, you will see it change to yellow, okay? Oh, it's wrong spelling. Okay, there. So it's yellow right now. And so that's how you do a class. Now, how we do an ID is just say ID. Type an ID name, whatever you want. Let's just say demo2. And for an ID, I said use a hash and then the name. And then let's just change the background color now to green. See if it turned green. It's not turning green. There, it's wrong spelling. Background color. Perfect. So yeah, just that's a perfect example to show that, you know, sometimes if there's one off thing, one wrong thing, it wouldn't work for you. So just try to make sure to pay attention to the details of your code. Okay, so that's a class using a class and an ID. So for the multiple classes, what I'm saying here is, for example, you can use 2 or more. So the class, let's just use this same class here, okay? Demo. So now if I'm going to put demo here, these multiple classes should turn, what is it? Yellow, right? So let's see if it's going to turn yellow on us. Perfect. So demo, and then I'm going to just declare another class name. So let's say font. Okay, so now there's 2 class names. So we can actually do that. And then I'm going to show you here how to access that. So dot, so because it's a class, you can use a dot and then font. And then we'll change the font weight to bold. You should see this turn to bold once I finish it here. Perfect. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is here is you can use multiple classes on a one element. This is one element right here, the p tag, or one paragraph, okay? I'm just going to show you a third one so that you can see like, oh, you can use actually lots of class names on one thing. So I'm just going to say color. So that's a class. So say again, color and background color. Let's try to do it green again. Okay, let's turn this to green. Green. Perfect. So now it's green. Okay, so that's another thing. So for a class, you can use lots of class names on one thing. But for ID, you cannot use it. You cannot reuse it, or you can't do the same thing as class. You have different ID names on one thing. You can't do that. So remember, ID is only used once. So try to remember that. But the other thing I want to point out is you can use an ID and class together on one element. So I'm going to put here an ID of, let's just say color again. It's a really bad example, but color is just what's in my mind right now. Okay, so color, an ID of color. So let's access that by using the hash color. And background color. So, okay, it's green. Let's do gray this time, okay? Background color. So it should just apply on this, multiple classes names, right? Because that's what we're trying to control here. Background color of gray. Perfect. So now it's gray. So that's how we use IDs, classes, and combination of IDs and classes and stuff. So you can use this class, ID only once. You can use lots of class names or an ID and class together. Okay? So if you have any other questions, just post in my video and our classmates would love to answer those. And I can also answer it if I know. So thanks so much.